Welcome back, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut show, brought to you by the Barn Burner Podcast Network and Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. You can subscribe to us by searching Backdoor Cut Show wherever you get your podcasts, and also listen to us at 9 p.m. Central every Monday on Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel, also on the Barn Burner Podcast Network. All right, tonight we got a trio when we're going to pick the NBA over-unders. I'm Zach. With me tonight I have Sam and Rich. We're going to wrap up the Grizzlies preseason a little bit and then kind of start giving our predictions for a wild and wonky year that we have ahead of us that starts in 2 days, which is pretty crazy, also very exciting. But Sam, we'll kick it off. How you doing?
A wonky year indeed. That's a perfect explanation for COVID Christmas, which we're having coming soon. I'm wearing my Memphis Tigers Santa hat, where I don't know where I got it from, but I have it. I'm drinking hot chocolate from Chris's mug. Rediscovered hot chocolate this Christmas. I know everyone knows it's good, and I always knew it was good, but like we bought a couple Swiss Miss boxes, and I've been crushing it because I put a little Cool Whip on top, and it is really fucking delicious. So shout out Cool Whip and shout out Swiss Miss. Not going to be around the family this year. We're going to be really careful and probably not see each other. Grizzlies games canceled, all the in-person games and Tigers games as well due to the crazy COVID restrictions. Well, not crazy, the realistic ones that are happening because of the crazy COVID rates in Shelby County. And we're probably going to end up back exactly where we were in March because, people are doing kind of whatever at this point. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm excited to be able to watch basketball from the comfort and safety of my own home. Rich, you're in Houston, but what else you got going on?
Yeah, man. Coming to y'all live from the mean suburban streets of Sugarland, Texas, right outside of Houston. So been here for about a week, and just been hearing a lot about James Harden every fucking day. Every time I turn on the TV and the radio and walk outside. So yeah, tired of hearing about it. But in that, I am happy that the NBA is coming back. Like you said, Sam, Tuesday. Just really excited to get some basketball back. And it's going to be different, but I understand the restrictions that have been put in place with the no fans, safety first. And shout out to the Brooklyn Nets because they kind of took the bubble experience and have like the monitors in their arena. And I just really like the way that looks more than just like the large tarps of the team logos in the arena. So shout out to Brooklyn for spending that cash to kind of make it a little more presentable, I guess.
They're going to be on TV a lot, so it makes sense. They want to look presentable.
Dude. Yeah, Kyrie got to burn his sage and shit. So.
I'm so fully in on that. Like, I don't care if that stuff's
on the
just
sage
so
or the monitors.
Both. I'm team monitor and sage. Like, just don't mix them together. But like the monitors cheap. You just roll them into the camera shot. I mean, they're really just TVs on stands, and so you can just like strategically only mask the parts of the seats that end up on the camera as it pans back and forth. So you don't even have to probably spend the money to cover all of those. I'm sure it's more expensive, but that's wise. I wonder if the Grizzlies will do something given that they don't have fans now rather than have just kind of weird looking open seats, which they only had because they were going to have fans. So we'll see if that happens. But Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm trying to remember what I did this weekend, and it was nothing.
You didn't do anything.
Yeah. Super eventful.
If you have to try to remember it, that means that you sat on your couch and probably you're moving. So you probably were stuffing stuff into boxes, which you'll forget where everything is, no matter how well you label them. And that's just the way moving goes.
Yeah, that's just it's kind of a whirlwind, so you can't keep track of everything. You just hope to reclaim it all once it reaches its final destination, I guess.
Yeah.
I watched Les Mis for the first time this weekend. That's one big thing that I did. So cultured myself a little bit. Some Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe. So that was one of a milestone in a person's life, I suppose. And so that's one thing I did this weekend.
What were your thoughts on Les Mis? You have any deep theater thoughts here?
Deep theater thoughts.
This is, of course, the movie version.
Yes, the movie version. No.
Okay. This is a basketball podcast. Fuck theater. Actually, I want to talk about cats for about like 3 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. I don't want to at all.
It was good. It was there was a lot of sad things that happened that I didn't see coming, so a lot of surprise happened. So I appreciated that part at least. It wasn't it wasn't super predictable, and it had enough lightheartedness in there that it gave you a little bit of hope too.
Yeah, I that's a good like Rotten Tomatoes review. I like it. Hunter, however, thinks that Russell Crowe as Javert was a travesty. He didn't like the casting. I've seen Les Mis once, and I've seen the play as well. I'm the culture guy, so I've seen not on Broadway, but like probably some small community theater production in Mississippi. But never mind that. It's fine. Just not a big Les Mis guy, but I get that it's a thing. What in the world did you watch that for?
We just wanted to
you were
watch
just
it.
You were just like, this looks great. Let me fire.
It came up in conversation, and my wife was like, "You haven't seen that? Well, you should watch it." And I was like, "Okay, we should watch it."
Okay,
all right.
That's where we went.
Should have watched The Greatest Showman, man. Should have watched The Greatest Showman.
I'm Team Greatest Showman. That has some good soundtrack, and my wife is a big Greatest Showman fan, and she loves that one of the songs in there. This is the greatest show. That song, it gets me pretty high.
Some bangers. It's got some bangers in there.
Hugh Jackman as well, probably a little bit better cast.
Is it better than Hamilton? I know that's kind of like different because that's like not actually a movie, but it feels like a movie when you're watching it on television, at least.
It is probably not it's not as award winning as Hamilton, but Hamilton's kind of a one trick pony. Like, it's really good and the lyrics are good, but it's like once you get past the spoken word rap part of it, it's like, okay, I get what they're doing here. But Greatest Showman's more like classically sung songs, like rock ballad pop songs.
I had to put it on my list. Thanks for the reco.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk some hoops, guys. So, Grizzlies swept the Wolves in a couple game series. That was nice. Then got 2 against the Hawks this weekend. Any big themes that stuck out to you from those games? Memphis won the first one, of course, pretty handily, and the Hawks came back and squeaked out a win in the second one on Saturday night. But a lot of the starters were out at that point. But what stuck out to you guys from those games?
I guess for me, like in watching the Atlanta series, I would just say that I was just excited with the development track that the Grizzlies took, like seeing a team that kind of did the opposite and wanted to kind of, really push all their chips to the table this season and go all in. I still don't think Atlanta is that good of a team. I will say that Cam Reddish impressed me a little bit. He looks to be a lot better and a lot more under control and kind of settled this season. So I'm excited to see what he does. But, I think the main point I think that everyone can kind of agree with is the shooting. Like the shooting, and I don't know how this is going to translate, to the regular season, but the shooting was a lot better, whether it be from Kyle, whether it be from D'Anthony, whether it be from, Grayson kind of continuing that trend he started in the bubble. It was really nice to see, just Ja kind of take command, and he was, by far the best player on the floor in all of the games that he played, in every game that he played, rather. And they just, I think Desmond Bane is, dude, that was just such a steal, I feel. I think he's going to be able to be plugged in right away and just kind of, be ready to go. It was unfortunate that Xavier Tillman kind of suffered a little minor knee tweak. I wasn't able to see that much of him. But yeah, it was an exciting preseason. The undefeated would have been nice, but the Atlanta Hawks basically kind of played their rotation guys versus the Memphis Hustle to try to squeak out a win last night. So it's all good. But yeah, shout out to Dylan as well. Dylan, this new facilitator, Dylan, who's kind of taking Desmond under his wing. He took him to the rites of passage of finding a barbershop in Memphis. And that's big stuff. That's bonding right there. That's off the court bonding for sure. So shout out to Dylan. He's been dishing that thing. And yeah, I'm just excited. Like they really looked good. They really looked good. And I'm interested to see what Jenkins is going to do with this 2-guard situation. I think it was fluctuating between D'Anthony and Grayson. I still am not sure, where I am. I think in the pod like 2 weeks ago, I wanted Grayson to start, but D'Anthony has been, playing well also. So I think, Jenkins was saying it's going to be kind of a fluid situation, a case-by-case basis. So I'm interested to see how he balances that, see what the Grizz can do. And I'm ready for Jaren and Justice to get back and see what we really have.
I was really impressed with we've gone further into the Jenkins style. We're running, we're shooting, we're playing the spread offense. I think guys are more liberally shooting the threes and they're actually going down more than they were with the Jay Crowder era, which is kind of funny to think about. The Fast Break Breakfast, Keith over there posted the per 36 for all the stars. Ja Morant, 24, 13 and 6, 13 assists. Dylan Brooks, 26, 5 and 5. Kyle Anderson, 20, 10 and 3 blocks per game. And Jonas, 22, 13 and 3 blocks. So that's, those are the kind of 36 minutes is obviously the mile marker for what most starters play in a regular season NBA game. That's why that stat's out there. So you might hear per 36 a lot when you're just listening to NBA podcasts. But that's really impressive. I was very impressed with Dylan. However, I'd like to apologize to absolutely no one because I don't feel like I owe anyone an apology, but I will say that
not yet. I hope that at some point you do, but I don't. I think it's too early to.
Well, if I owe anyone an apology, it would be him directly, because I can't be critiqued for critiquing accurately, right? Like, because if he changes the way he plays and ends up being good, then I will praise him to the high heavens. But if he keeps doing what he has done, then I won't. I will continue to do what I'm doing and being a hater. I'd have to imagine maybe some of my tweets made its way to him, and that's what we're seeing him starting to pass. He's starting to think about the my slander on Twitter, but I don't want to take full credit for it. He's looked really good. He's played within himself, and he's taking open shots, taking in rhythm shots. He's just looks like an amazing shooter, man. He looks like he might have taken a shooting jump even this year, and you could tell maybe the maturity's there. And think about it, going from 24 to 25 is a pretty crucial year in any young man's development. You think about yourself, or when you were at that age or whatever, you could just track the progress between 22, 23 and all these years. So I think there's something to be said for all that, but been very impressed. Zach, do you have any thoughts with the preseason games and with all this? Of course, it's just preseason. And the one thing that I have thought about this preseason is it's more like the regular season. It's different because there's been no summer league, got a quick entrance here till regular season games start. Guys are wanting to actually get in shape. So people are playing a little harder than what normally they would, I think. Yeah, only a 72-game season, so it's sort of changed the dynamic. So I think you could extrapolate more from this preseason than you could ever from previous preseasons.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's the case because guys have to get ready to play games. They're not just, hey, I've been in training, working out for months and months, working up to this point. It's like, boom, I have to hit the ground running. So I got to get my reps in at game speed. There's not really time to mess around or experiment or anything like that. It's time to hit the ground running. And one thing that you hit on, Rich, was Morant being the best player. I felt through the whole preseason, he was the best player on the court. No matter which all-star he was sharing, was on the opposing team that he was sharing the court with. And his rep, I think, has made it around the league of he is going to attack the rim. And if you are in the way of the rim, he is also going to attack you because don't know how many times, at least 4 or 5, we saw guys just move out of the way. Karl Anthony Towns wanted nothing to do with Morant when he was coming at the bucket. Several times he would literally turn his back to him and take a step out of the way, like, I'm just not messing with this. And same thing for the Hawks. Gallo, I can remember specifically in that first game, took a step out of the way, said, not messing with this. So I think Morant's rep has made its way around the league. The guys don't want to end up like Aaron Baines on that poster or on one of those almost got dunked on even. That's bad enough. But I think that speaks volumes to Morant and his game and the reputation that he has. Also, I was impressed with JV a lot. Valanciunas, really, he went at Towns, went at Capella, no inhibition, just bullied him a lot of times on the offensive end of the floor. Didn't look terrible on defense either. And, he just did the same thing that he's done while he's been here the whole time, double-double machine pretty much. He averaged 15 and 8.8, but, less minutes than he would get during a regular season. But that was just kind of another thing. And Kyle at the 4 is really fun. I didn't think, he's not apparently – he's not able to shoot threes when he's expected really to shoot them, but it's kind of like when he's playing the 4, it's a little bonus. He can play the defense, bring the ball, whatever, pass, but it's a little bonus, and we're not relying on him to shoot threes. And that's kind of, I think, a better situation for him. Maybe a little bit less pressure, shoulder more healed. So that'll be interesting. Going to be tough to find when we have a full roster kind of what happens with his minutes, with Jaren coming back and Justice kind of scrambling everything up again. But those are just a couple observations that I had from the preseason. but like you guys, really excited about getting started. I like the squad that we got, even though we're missing some key players. It's a fun
They like
team.
each other.
Yeah,
And you can really tell it's not one of those bullshit, singing around the campfire, kumbaya things where the social media makes it look one way. Because all these social media people are super good at making the team seem like they're all boys and having a good time. But I mean, I don't think Devin's job is like super hard in the sense of making them like look like they're legitimate friends, because I really think they are, based on just their own individual social media profiles. They're hanging out. They're dropping mixtapes together in the case of Justice and Jaren, who seem to have become really good friends off the court.
that's all. That's all they are, is off the court.
It's true. That's true. That's a good point. But why you gotta do them like that? But if you ever guys have the time, watch the Behind the Bubble series. It's on YouTube. It's like 7 or 8 episodes, and it really goes to how close these guys are. Like D-Mel, that people love him. Like he's always clowning on Tyus. Tyus is the quieter, funnier one. Like you can really get the team dynamics of how they all are, and they really fit together personality wise, and that matters when you're a young team. And I think it really is going to travel well on the road. And I tweeted this. I think that it will cause them to win a few games that they probably otherwise shouldn't, because they are just have such a good camaraderie. And if when they get punched, they're not going to, just rattle like a lot of young teams.
Yeah, so or implode and get mad at each other. That maybe they can work through it and find a way to get together instead of getting pissed at each other.
Yeah, it's not like you directly compare that with the Timberwolves, right? And they're a young team. It's supposedly Cat and D'Lo are good friends off the court, but you really, you can see them chatting sometimes, but you really just wouldn't know if that team likes each other. And I would wager they don't, based on like a few times I've watched them, but I don't know that. Atlanta, none of them know each other. They're also new. A lot of new pieces on that team, so you really can't pull anything from that. But I mean, our guys have been together for a year. There's continuity. There's something to be said about that. And this age of like, let's change up everything every year. And I mean, all these guys signing 1-year deals. So there's something to continuity. And that's why the Grit and Grind Grizzlies did perform so well, I thought, over that tenure, because there was continuity there. Any other thoughts on preseason?
No, sir. Let's hit these over-unders.
We starting with Eastern Conference or Western Conference? We've done this for like 3 years now, and it's always fun. We haven't actually gone back and listened to our predictions at any point, but at some point I want to do that and see like if I was actually right. This year, I think because gambling is legalized in Tennessee, shout out FanDuel, we don't get a sponsorship from you, but we'll give you a free ad. I would love to actually make these bets, I think. So I think I'm going to actually place bets on these, and we'll go from there.
I already got a parlay for opening night out there for Hornets and Cavs and Heat Magic. So, yeah, I'm in.
Wow, you're a degenerate for betting those games. Hornets and Cavs, that's like when you're in the fucking trenches, man. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm looking for easy pickings to parlay.
Sandler and Uncut Gems right now. Are you gonna are you a diamond jeweler too? I need you to give me one. This is how I win. Come on.
I honestly can't remember that part of the movie.
I'll be Lakeith Stanfield. You can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I do not remember that part of the movie.
All right. We'll workshop that and be back to you. Yeah, we'll workshop that. Okay.
I have it set up so I can write
down. It's
only
like one of the more memed movies in NBA culture, but who cares about that?
Was he yelling?
Oh, check out In the Can. Like, there's a whole episode about it where I talk about it with a screenwriter out in LA.
I mean, I watched it with you. We were in the theater together. I just don't remember that part. It was like a year ago.
That's true. Maybe check out that instead of Les Mis. Maybe devote a little time to something instead of a Hugh Jackman musical.
I'm tracking the over-unders. All right, so we can go back and look.
Okay. Western Conference, Eastern Conference. I say we start in the East. We start away and then work our way. Do we want to start with the predicted worst team, or work our way up?
Start at the top.
The best team. Okay.
Yeah.
At number 1 in the East, should come to no surprise to anyone, the Milwaukee Bucks at 49.5 wins. Of course, Giannis re-signed, 5-year max, super max. Everyone's excited there. Got Drew Holiday. Otherwise, roster somewhat similar. They traded Bledsoe for Drew Holiday. Still got Middleton there. Traded Robin Lopez, or he re-signed. Still got Brooke Lopez. Roster's kind of the same, with the exception of Drew Holiday, who they hope is that second banana beside Giannis. Also want to point out that I've got Kevin Pelton's strength of schedule article open. He analyzed the first half of the season. Of course, this pandemic season's been released in 2 different halves, so we actually only have half the schedule thus far. He did a couple major points to highlight that there's a reduced travel element here. We saw it in the preseason where teams are playing these series akin to baseball, right? You're going over to Mini and playing them twice and staying in the city for 4 or 5 days. And Atlanta came here and stayed in Memphis for 4 or 5 days and played us twice. So you're reducing travel, obviously minimizing contact in various places and airports. That makes sense, the pandemic. And there's the back-to-backs are up. Last season, the back-to-backs were 15% of all games were played on back-to-back with 0 rest. This year, it is 18.7%, so it's up a little bit. Obviously, there's less time to fit in, kind of still a lot of games. So we're seeing that makes sense, right? There's more back-to-backs. And inevitably, that's going to affect strength of schedule. And there are some teams that have a lot more back-to-backs or play a lot of teams that just had back-to-backs. So that really factors in with, especially in the rest era, what these teams are going to look like. So the Bucks are listed at the 29th strength of schedule, meaning they are the second to easiest. They have, let's look at 10 of their opponents have back-to-backs in games. They have 17 games away, 20 games at home. We know they're killer at home. And they only have 6 back-to-backs, which is the bottom rung of the total back-to-backs. So they have an easy first half of the schedule. They are, of course, good as Milwaukee Bucks go. And keep in mind, too, this is a 72 game season. So you're looking at about this is basically what would amount to a 59.5 win total in any normal season. I believe. So, Rich, you going over under 49.5?
I'm gonna go over. Like you mentioned, Giannis, Drew Holiday. I'm gonna make sure to see what some of the lower rung signees get to do out there, such as like a Torrey Craig or a Bryn Forbes or Bobby Portis, who has been around for a minute, but never really been in a winning culture coming out of Chicago. But I'm going to say over because I always trust Giannis and the Bucks in the regular season. It's the playoffs that's a different story. So definitely going to go over. I think they're going to be the number 1 seed. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I'm picking over too for those reasons. Easy schedule, easy strength of schedule. So they'll bang some wins early in the season, and then they will be rolling as they do often in the regular season. They just want that number 1 seed. They just win a ton of games because they have such a culture there and they play a certain way. And again, like Rich said, the regular season or playoffs rather are a different story. Zach, what do you think about the Bucks over or under?
So I don't have them as the regular season favorites in the East. I'm actually going to stick with Miami, or I'm going to have Miami go there. Just really was impressed with what they had in the playoffs, and I think they're a really strong team. Obviously, adding our guy Precious there, add a little bit more depth to that roster, make them a little bit meaner. That being said, I'm going to go under on the Bucks by a shade.
All right. Number 2, the predicted second seed in the East are your Boston Celtics. Tatum, Brown, Marcus Smart, the guys that we know have been there forever. And we find ourselves, though, with probably a little bit of a worse team. They of course, are constantly struggling with Kemba's injury. His knee is kind of a weird deal. Like, no one really knows what's going on with it. They did sign Tristan from the Cavs, so they got some backup help in the front court. But a lot of people expect them to take a step back this year. They just don't think they'll be as good. So I'm gonna actually pick under. 45.5 is the expected win total. I'm picking under. Rich, how do you feel about the C's this year?
I'm gonna go under as well. I just think that I was watching a broadcast a couple of days ago, and somebody was mentioning the Celtics, like a window was there for them for the taking, and they didn't really seize that. So I'm not sure, what this path forward looks like for them with Kemba's, consistent, incessant injuries and what have you. I know Jason Tatum is the ageless wonder, and I think that he is an awesome prospect. But with him and Jaylen Brown, I still don't think, that's enough. Any team that's hoping to contend and they're excited about a Jeff Teague signing in free agency, I just can't go for the over with. So I'm going to go under. I think they're going to underachieve this year.
Just a real tough backcourt too. No real improvement. I'm sorry, a second unit. Like they got no backups there. They got to play all their guys, like basically their top 6 guys, a million minutes. Zach's about to talk about Romeo Langford.
Peyton Pritchard, baby.
Yeah, your draft darling, where you had him drafted somewhere in the second round, I believe.
Yeah.
Took him at 26, classic Ainge pick. I think Ainge is hoping to adopt him as his own son as well.
The Boston Sun,
yeah.
son.
You got to have the great white hope there, like
a
crafty white point guard that plays gritty and all the other classic white superlatives of a basketball player.
Gritty.
Student of the game.
Yeah, exactly. High IQ, real coachable, coach's son. People were like, his dad's a coal miner, dude. And you're like, coach's son.
All right, just to pile onto the Celtics. Sorry to our Titch guys, but I've also got them going under. Yeah, like you said, don't see a ton of necessary improvement. And I saw them a couple games, or was it one or two games, against teams like 76ers. And I just think a lot of teams are going to be able to take advantage of that size difference down low. And, anyone who's got like imposing size big men. And I think that'll, any coaches who are, really good, they're still going to struggle, I think, against the elite teams because those coaches know what Boston has in those specific players. And, guys like Tatum they're not Giannis, they're not Harden. There's still another tier for them to get there. And that's where they need to be to push them to the next level. And I know they're listed at second, but I don't have that much faith in them at this point. So I'm going to say give them the under.
Yeah, not to mention Hayward, of course. I can't believe I forgot, left and went down to Hornets. I know he wasn't what they thought he would be in Boston, but of course he was still a crucial component. Averaged 17 or 18 a game for him. Like usually checked one of the better kind of wing guys. I know that Brown's a great defender too, but he was just like a solid regular season guy for him. And I just don't know how they're going to like recapture those points. Their strength of schedule is 12th. So they are about middle of the pack, 19 and 19 games home, 19 away. Their opponents have 5 back-to-backs. They have 7. So they are about middle of the pack straight to schedule. I think that kind of goes further to their under. They don't have a particularly easy first half to get those wins early. Who knows what's going to happen with Kemba. I could see them coming out like closer to 500. He's having a real tough beginning of the season unless Tatum makes a crazy-ass jump and, ends up becoming kind of like what Kobe was at 22, just carrying kind of like a Shaq-less Lakers team to good record. Any other thoughts on the Celtics, or we can go to the third team? The Steve Nash Brooklyn Nets at 45.5 wins as well, tied with Boston. They have them third here in the rankings. The Brooklyn Nets possess the 24th, so pretty easy 24th ranked schedule, pretty easy schedule. 19 games at home, 18 on the road, 7-7 back-to-backs opponents and themselves. Not a particularly hard schedule for them in the first half. KD and Kyrie have looked good in the preseason, whatever that means. KD and Kyrie seem to have like managed to get on the same wavelength, even though like you could tell KD has no interest in Kyrie's bullshit, but he does let Kyrie be Kyrie, which is important. I feel like he kind of acknowledges him. He's like a little brother where it's like he just wants to be acknowledged, but then he'll leave you alone. I think KD's figured that out. Also, shout out to Rusilla, found this very funny. I did too. But when they were on like the chat that they posted, they were on like a public FaceTime or like a Facebook Live or Instagram Live. KD and Kyrie. Did you guys see this?
No,
I don't think so.
And it's just KD and Kyrie having a private conversation, which they posted to everyone. And Kyrie's talking about how he wants 7 or 8 post touches a game, and because he feels like he's a constant mismatch problem, and he loves his post ups. That's like one of the biggest knocks on Kyrie is he loves these ISO post ups, and he thinks they're like really efficient. And so he was like, I want 7 or 8 a game, and KD's like, yeah, we talked about like 2.5. And Kyrie's like, man, I'm just telling you, like, it's a constant mismatch. Like, whoever my guy is, it's like automatic points. Like, I feel like that's really going to fit in the flow of our offense. And he goes on and on and on about why the post-ups are a good idea. And KD goes, yeah, we don't see, though. and then just changes the conversation. But he basically just like your little brother, just shuts him down with, all right, cool, man, whatever. But his, yeah, we going to see, though, it just had me cracking up. So I don't even know if they'll implode or whatever. What Rich or I'm sorry, we'll go with Zach first. Zach, over under 45.5.
Yeah, so this is a team that I'm pretty excited to see. I honestly felt last year they have a strong roster. I think they got a lot of pretty good players, guys like Jared Allen, LeVert, Dinwiddie, Some other guy, Joe Harris. I mean,
Sign another deal.
Yeah, it's a pretty good roster
Karis
already.
LeVert.
Even though Jeff Green is on it, and that's kind of a curse. But I mean, adding KD and Kyrie, I really think this could be, a really strong team in the East. Like a lot of people, of course, but I think that they're definitely going to be battling for one of these top seeds in the East. So I'm going to pick the over for them.
Rich, what do you think?
Yeah. So this is either going to be really good or it's going to be really bad. And I am going to go with the over. Similar to some of the points Zach made, outside of Kyrie and KD, I just think there is some depth there. Shout out our guy Jeremiah Martin, University of Memphis, who knows, he might get some burn. But also Timothy, I don't know his fucking last name. He's French, but he played well in the bubble.
TLC.
TLC, yeah. Shout out TLC, not to be confused with the new Laker hope THT. So yeah, shout out to TLC, man. DeAndre, Jared, Spencer, Joe, Karis. You know what I'm saying? There's just a lot of pieces there. And Steve Nash and Mike D'Antoni and the rest of that staff. They have some work cut out for them. Managing a lot of ball dominant players, a lot of players who probably are used to playing a certain type of way, but it seems like, to your point, Sam, KD knows kind of how to work with Kyrie, if you will, and I think that Kyrie has, realized like this literally might be his final chance at finding a home in the NBA. So I'm excited to see what they can do. I mean, at the end of the day, KD and Kyrie are both talented as fuck, and they're going to win some damn games. So I'm definitely going with the over.
Yeah, I'm picking under. I just have a bad feeling about this. I want it to be good. I'm going to be like weirdly rooting for them. I think they're like one of my favorite teams in the East, if not my favorite.
Yeah.
Second favorite, actually, because I knew who was my first. But I just feel like I'm looking at Kyrie and I'm thinking, look at these Celtics teams. They underachieved every year, pursuant to their expectations, and he just didn't, end up turning out well, I feel like. And I just can see that happening again. Now, whether or not the Nets make a trade for Harden is yet to be seen. We could see some crazy shakeups, too, in this season that could change these over-under totals. But assuming the roster stays as it is, I could see those guys resting a lot, too, and kind of just, like, waiting for the playoffs. So I don't know if they'll necessarily try to, like, be a top, 2 or 3 seed. They might just want home courts. Maybe they're just, like, going for 4. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm picking under 45.5. For the Brooklyn Nets. Moving on to number 4, the Philadelphia 76ers, my number 1 favorite team in the East at 45.5. You got Embiid's there still in the best shape of his life, which is every year. And then Ben Simmons, you got Tobias Harris, but you got Al Horford out of there. And you got some shooters. You got Seth Curry in there. You got Danny Green in there. The question is whether those guys are still really good. Seth Curry's kind of more of a role player. Danny Green, Rich can speak more to this, but he's questionably still effective. But they are shooters, and that is what we've been calling for. Daryl Morey there in the front office. We're expecting to see maybe some moves, but I think this is kind of the year where you just see, like, is Ben and Embiid going to work out or are they not? And, maybe we see a Harden trade or not. We have to assume not, though. The 76ers possess the 22nd, so a pretty easy schedule. So that's something to consider as well. 19 home games, 18 away, 6 back-to-backs themselves against 5 back-to-backs their opponents. So not a tough schedule. They're at 45.5. I go over, man. I'm high on the Sixers every single season, and I always pick over. And I don't actually know whether I've been right either this season. I have to assume not last year. But we didn't see the Embiid injury into the season. That was a crazy way they tried to play with no pacing or space whatsoever, with Horford and Embiid on the court at the same time. So this year they are, I think, are going to be better. And I think we'll see a lead from Simmons and Embiid. Rich, what do you think of the Sixers?
Oh, man. You made some really good points. However, I'm going to go with the under. I'm excited that I can finally support Doc Rivers, after being the coach of the Celtics, which I couldn't, and then the Clippers, which I couldn't. I can now support Doc, and see what he's working with. But I don't know, man. I'm still not sold on Embiid as the number 1 on a championship winning team. So talented, so gifted, but the health factor is something that always comes into play. Is he going to be able to consistently play throughout this season with a shorter off season, with this truncated schedule of, playing these series and what have you? And I think, and seeing what Ben Simmons does, his name is the one that's being brought up in all of these trades for James. It went from being untouchable to now they're listening to offers on him. And Ben Simmons seems like the type of guy, who might block that out, but also I've seen him do some petty things on the court. I think he uses social media. He sees some things. He takes some things personally. But at the end of the day, I think they're a talented roster. Like you mentioned, some of their additions, Seth, DG, Dwight Howard as well, drafted Maxey out of Kentucky. So I think, it's definitely there. I think they will be a top 4 seed, but I'm going to go with the under.
Yeah, this is one of the teams that I'm pretty excited to see play this year. One guy we didn't mention, Isaiah Joe, drafted out of Arkansas. One guy that a lot of Memphis fans had their eye on, hoping that he would slip to them in the draft this year. I'm going to go with the over on them. This year, I'm not always feeling the Sixers. I'm feeling them this year. And I don't know if it's just the shakeup in management and coaching. Let's try something different. The roster seems to be more critiqued towards what they need. So I'm taking the over on this one in a tight pack of Celtics, Nets, and 76ers.
All right. Let's move to the 5th team in the East, the Miami Heat. Zach's Miami Heat at 44.5 wins. They are 17th in strength of schedule, which is middle of the pack. 18 games at home, 19 on the road. They have faced 12 opponents that are on back-to-backs. So that's a pretty interesting. They're definitely an anomaly on the high range there. Now, you like the second half of the schedule, you have to imagine is more balanced with respect to that. But that's where we stand now. Pretty much the same team we saw last year. They drafted Precious Achiuwa out of University of Memphis. They lost Jay Crowder and Solomon Hill. Jay Crowder, obviously more of a rotation guy for that team. Started for him, usually guarded the first or second best players. Shot really well for them after he traded. So that is a key loss on that team. But you expect Hero is back, a year older, theoretically a year better. Jimmy's going to be Jimmy. Maybe Dragic's healthy this year, kind of play a full season. We'll see. Bam is going to be another year older, another year better. He's like 22 or 23, maybe going to be 24. So he's right in that range where every year could take a big jump. So the culture's there. Spo's a great coach. I don't anticipate them having a bad regular season like they did last year. But 44.5 that's like exactly what I would have set them at. So it's really tough. I have picked 2 overs and 2 unders, so I'm on schedule. I'm feeling good about where I am right now. I am going to pick the under, though. I think that they have a lot of old guys on their roster, with the exception of, of course, Tyler Hero, which is their kind of boy wonder. They lost Eric Jones Jr. Again, I feel like they're a team that doesn't care as much about regular season wins, and they're not going to be playing like a severe amount of guys in these back-to-backs in this condensed season. So I could see them under their win total, and then, of course, still being themselves in the playoffs. Zach, I feel like you got them over, though. Tell me about them.
Why, Sam, you are correct. I do have them over. I think even though they do have some old guys, and I don't picture Goran playing every game. He's just coming off an injury, signing a new contract. He's probably just going to be chilling as much as possible till the playoffs. But you still have some young guys in Hero and Precious and Bam. You added Avery Bradley to the mix, so you got a good combo guard who can carry some of those duties that when Goran's off the court, which would have been obviously super helpful for them in the finals against the Lakers. Maybe we'll see a little bit more development from Kendrick Nunn. He's still, he's only been in the league a year, so I think that even when you go down to the lower part of the roster of guys who aren't going to be necessarily starting and they'll get the spot starts when the main core is sitting. I think that's still a really good team and just one of the best coaches in the league, and I think very highly of them. Actually did put a few bucks on the futures for them to come out of the East, to have the high seed coming out of the East. So I put my money where my mouth was on this. I think it was like $2, but it was like plus 700. So I was like, I can do that.
Big payout there. Rich, how do you feel about South Beach?
Yeah. So don't think they'll be returning to the NBA Finals next year. I can put that on the table right now. And I'm going to go with the under. Still a very talented roster, but also on the older side. I think that the Derrick Jones Jr. Departure is going to affect. They really utilize his versatility a lot to work the top of their zones and cover multiple positionally. And yeah, Avery Bradley's a dog, and they're a talented roster. But Goran Dragic is like 42. Jimmy's probably going to rest a little bit. Precious, have his time. Bam is, a great talent, but I just don't know if they have enough roster-wise, talent-wise. They're probably expecting Tyler Herro to make this huge jump, and he was very productive in the bubble. Some of that was very overhyped as well, but, very solid player. Duncan Robinson, was a shooter, fucking flamethrower. But yeah, I feel like that bubble environment really suited them well. Like just that togetherness of honing in on this one goal, Jimmy leading by example, and they were able to kind of lock in on this common goal. And I don't know if they'll continue to do that, that'll translate to this regular season. I just don't think that the roster is talented enough to make a return trip to the NBA Finals. But, that Heat culture is real. They believe in themselves. Spoelstra's a hell of a coach. So, who knows what could happen. But I'm definitely going to go with the under for sure.
Heard that. Moving on to our 6-seed team, the Toronto or the Tampa Raptors, as it were. Of course, the Raptors playing their games down in Tampa currently with the pandemic raging. 41.5 wins. The first half of the season, they are the fourth most difficult schedule. They play 17 home games, 20 away. So I think that, of course, factors in the opponents as well. So tough schedule out of the gate for the Raptors. Not at home, living in a different city. Of course, they got Kyle Lowry back. They got Pascal Siakam back. They've got Fred VanVleet re-signed. They got probably the best coach in the NBA and Nick Nurse. They've got a culture that rivals that of the Miami Heat. They just fucking win games. The second you count them out, they just like throw some shit in the microwave, hit zap, and then out comes just a bunch of regular season wins, and that's just how it works. And that's just, take it to the bank sort of thing. But I don't know if I'm willing to take it to the bank, though. This is, I feel like, a really weird season. At some point, these guys are going to get so old. Like, how long can Lowry be Lowry? And I know that he isn't relying on athleticism, so maybe he can duplicate it for so long. But at some point, he's got to take a step back. Pascal Siakam, you hope he makes a jump. You hope he gets another year better, maybe add some skills to his bag beyond the spin move, which we can assume he'll do. With that being said, I'm picking over. Fuck it, it's the Raptors. I can't not do it. They just win games. 41.5, I'll pick over. They're always dancing right there in the middle of the East, so I can't deny Nick Nurse's coaching prowess. And we'll see what they do. Of course, Ibaka's gone. Marc Gasol's gone, so there's some front court questions. But I don't know, man. They just know what to do. And I'll be damned if I'm ever going to bet under on them because I feel like that's just a losing proposition. Rich, how do you feel about the Tampa Raptors?
Yeah, shout out to the Tampa Raptors, man. Definitely going to go with the over as well for a lot of the points that you made. I just can never count them out. Whether that's Lowry, VanVleet, who bet on himself and had like the most epic tweet of re-quoting his tweet from when he didn't get drafted to bet on yourself to when he cashed in this summer, like best quote tweet ever. Yeah. I think they signed Aaron Baines.
One of the best stan accounts on Twitter is the Aaron Baines.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Sometimes I find myself just getting lost in it. Like they're dedicated.
That and Tony Snell.
Yeah, they're super dedicated.
They gifted the Baines fan account over to the Raptors fans, but there was like a passing of the password. Did you see that?
Wow.
Yeah, so the Raptors fans are now in possession of the account because obviously the originators of it are likely Suns fans. So that's where we stand now with that Twitter account. Sorry to cut you off, Rich.
That's legit. No, good. Y'all good. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the over. I think I'm a really big Norman Powell fan too. I don't know like what it is, but I like his game.
Yeah, I like his game too.
He's that that kind of microwave off the bench for them. And Siakam, he's gonna have to take another step, like you mentioned. And I think he's gonna have a little chip on his shoulder based upon that bubble performance this past summer, which was very underwhelming. So yeah, definitely going with the over with the Tampa Bay Raptors. Never count them out.
Zach, you're a big Raptors guy or have been in the past, but have they scored you in all the wrong times?
I'm being contrarian here. I took him on the under on this one. I don't know what to expect. Like you said, Lowry, he played heavy minutes in the bubble. So he's gonna need to be fresh for the playoffs because they're gonna be in the playoffs. They'll be in the middle. They'll have a decent seed. And in the East, you can take some games off and still win, but I think a couple are gonna slip away from them. Even though they brought in, Aaron Baines, not a whole lot of roster movement on the way in. They got former Grizzly Yuta Watanabe, which is already becoming, I can tell, like a Twitter favorite of Raptors fans and Japanese media. So that, props to them for that. But I went the under on them this time.
That's fair. Moving on to the Indiana Pacers at 7, 39.5. The Pacers sit at the 25th hardest schedule, so pretty easy schedule beginning of the season. Something to think about too with the schedule stuff is like if you have a tough schedule, you lose a bunch of games first half of the season. Real good draft this year, so maybe that encourages some teams that otherwise might not have started to lose a little bit more. Maybe they will if they have a really tough first half of the season. No fans, 72-game season. Maybe we see some stuff happen on that front too, which is another wrinkle. The Indiana Pacers, the most milquetoast team. I have to imagine this is what people used to talk about the Grizzlies like. What is interesting about them? I challenge you to tell me one thing. I really like Sabonis. He's a great passer. I actually really love his game. When I turn on League Pass in the Pacers, and if he's not in, fucking out of there, man. I'm not in Banker's life anymore. I'm zapping to somewhere else in the country because I'm just not about that life. I've just been Pavloving, as the Titch guys say, to pick under on them. This is my lock under Indiana Pacers. They're terrible, and I just have zero faith in them as a culture, as a team. Their guys are hurt all the time. Oladipo's unhappy. Does he want out? Is he even going to play? I'm out, man. That's tough. They need to rebuild. I'm out on the Pacers. So just heavy under, lock that shit down. What do you guys think? Are you higher on the Pacers?
I have under as well, but I definitely can say I don't feel that strongly about probably anything that we're going to discuss tonight, honestly. But
you just got to get passionate, man. That's what the listeners want.
I will tell you, you want a storyline. It's how's Oladipo going to come back and play? That's the big storyline. Is he going to come back, take our breath away, and be a fantastic player? Or
Oladipo has never taken my breath awy.
Is he going to do it though?
The only way he did take my breath away was with his singing. He's got an amazing voice.
Take your breath away.
Yeah. In fact, he'd be great at singing that song. But great voice, really talented guy. Really like him. But yeah, I honestly this is one of my favorite trolls is to convince all my friends that their teams are gonna trade for Oladipo, and then I act like I'm really high on him, but really not so high on him in my inner heart.
You don't think that Goga Bitadze is gonna move the needle for him?
I don't answer questions like that.
I do want to put Sabonis. That guy's
Sabonis is amazing.
I love watching him, and I have always tried to get him in fantasy too. He's one of those. Him and Valanciunas are those walk-in double-double guys that are really helpful in fantasy. But to sum it up, I have under as well.
Yeah, same for me. I'm going with the under. I don't know what their identity is. I have no passion to ever watch an Indiana Pacers game. Their series bored me to death in the bubble outside of TJ Warren. Oladipo has never taken my breath away either, but he can make a damn good R&B album. And the weekend that Black Panther opened, he was in a slam dunk contest and kind of saluted Chadwick, rest in peace. So that was a dope moment. That was my favorite Victor Oladipo moment. Yeah. It didn't take place on an actual basketball game. They drafted Cassius Stanley from Duke. I got nothing.
Yeah, that's the story of the Indiana Pacers. There's just our general lack of ability to put together a sentence on them. Look at the trade with the Celtics too. They tried to make a trade with the Celtics. Yeah. They try to get Gordon Hayward because Hayward wants to go there, and they want Hayward, so they try to do a sign and trade. They can't even trade their guy. Blanking on their center, Miles Turner. Celtics don't even want his ass. That's just like not what you want, man. He's like their theoretical second best player or third best player, and like if you can't trade him away in a sign and trade deal where the guy could just walk for nothing, that's really not what you want. I can't get excited about it. And I shout out Pacers fans, man. I feel you. Like small market, like I'm not trying to be a hater. Like I'm just speaking real, and like more excited about my team than yours.
I mean, that's a good feeling. I think this next one should be fun, though. What's
Atlanta
next,
Hawks,
Sam? Yeah.
8th. 36.5 teams, or wins, rather. The Hawks sit, where do they sit on this list? Oh, they are the 14th most difficult schedule. So, again, middle of the pack. 17 home games, 20 away, 7 back-to-backs. Opponents, 4 back-to-backs. Acquired all those players. We get it. They want to win now. We get it. The whole leadership's going to be fired and out in the streets of Atlanta if they don't win. We get it. But here's the thing: if you can't stop the player that Trae Young's guarded from getting into the paint and then creating chaos, because the second a player gets in the paint in the NBA, then there's collapsing, then there's ball rotation, swing, and then open three. That's going to happen to you every single play. And you will lose basketball games that you should have won talent-wise because you have such a sieve on defense. This isn't like he's a bad defender. This is like he's maybe the worst defender that the NBA's ever seen. Like, I mean, in the modern NBA at least, with the ability for all these guys. And if you think you're just going to hide him on whatever the weakest ball handler is in the other team, then I got news for you, man. It's going to be ball screen coming your way, and then there's going to be a switch. And then the NBA, we've learned on the offensive end, is so good at hunting down defenders and putting them in ISO situations. And Ja just got into the paint whenever he wanted against Indiana or against Atlanta. I mean, of course, he's like maybe a transcendent player at getting into the paint, so we have to take that for account. But I just don't see how they're going to be able to play good enough defense to get the kind of wins they want. 36.5, though, that's tough. Man, I don't know. I'm going to pick under because I'm a hater on the Hawks. Rich, how do you feel about the Atlanta Bogdanoviches?
I'm gonna go under too, man. I just,
you don't feel. You have conviction on that. You don't sound like you have conviction on it.
I'm, because they made some moves, and I'm just still not sold. Like, so I'm gonna go with the under. I don't. People were trying to get hyped up about Rajon Rondo and Chris Dunn. Like, that's just not like, no. You
that
just
sounds like how Memphis has been in the past.
Yeah,
we got Garrett Temple, baby. We're excited.
No, we're good.
We've heard of this guy before.
Right, exactly. So
well, the thing is, like, you get guys that can defend well, but that doesn't just suddenly make the team a better defensive team. Like, there's still one hole that it's
glaring hole.
Yeah, and so that's the problem. It's not like suddenly Chris Dunn can like separate himself into two like an X-Man and like defend Trey's guy and his guy. Like there's just that is not how it works. Although he's a great defender, I don't know if he's an X-Man. Shout out Chris Dunn. And
not looking to it. Gallo came out and was like, he wasn't about the money, he was trying to win, but then he went and got the bag from Atlanta, so he clearly got the bag. Gallo's just trying to hoop.
20-win team last year. You think they're going to win? No. Do you think the moves they made add 17 wins to that? That's kind of the
we haven't. Their big thing is you haven't seen us with these new pieces, and Capella didn't play last year, et cetera, et cetera. But it's under. Period. I think they're going to be who was that overhyped team last year? Pelicans. They're going to be the Pelicans. Yeah, they're going to be the Pelicans of this. Like, I'm sorry, not sorry.
Can I take a guess real quick? A little bit of a detour on who has the easiest schedule through the first half. Is it New Orleans?
It is not. They're top 10 though.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway. They got to get their confidence going early, man. You'll be surprised at the number one easiest team. You'll probably laugh a little bit. You'll cry a little bit, and your world may be shaken. No, none of that will happen. Zach, Atlanta Hawks over under.
I think just on the sheer principle of the matter, I have to pick the under. So that's what I did. Also, they brought in a whole bunch of, a lot of names that you've heard of, you're familiar with, but I still am not feeling it's not a basketball symphony the way that this team has been assembled. It's a mishmash of like decent to good household names if you're, a relative basketball fan, but it's not taking my breath away, like Oladipo could do.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know how it's all going to work. You have a lot of guys who are used to their roles on their previous teams, and they've a lot of them are going to have to compromise to play together on this team. So I think your example of did they gain almost 100%? Did they get 100% better in the offseason? I don't think so. So under.
Yep, fuck the Hawks. All right, at number 9 are the Washington Wizards. The double-headed monster, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal at 32.5 wins. This is my other just lock it. This is an over, man. Like, these guys are going to win more than 32.5 games. They're too good not to. You've got 2 all-star point guards that complement each other. You've got some really good complementary pieces there. You got spacing. The question is going to be defense. But they're going to score so much, it's not going to matter. I really, really like Westbrook as a cultural fit there, too. I think he's going to, get them into shape. The guys that are kind of wah-wah about the team. I think if Westbrook's good for anything, he's good for regular season wins. I mean, we saw that in Oklahoma City. He carried a bad Oklahoma City team to a 5 seed by himself. They're in the East, which is not as good. There's no way they're not in the top 8. I'm just telling you right now, unless catastrophic injuries happen, of course. But we're speaking as if every team is completely healthy going forward, and because we have to, we can't anticipate anything. The Washington Wizards' first half of the season schedule is they are 9th, so they have a fairly difficult first half of the schedule. They're 18 at home, 19 on the road. Don't have a ton of back-to-backs, only 7 opponents, 5, but they play pretty difficult teams, so there's that is in play. But I'm really high on the Wizards. I think they're going to have a really good regular season. Playoffs, it's a whole different scenario, but I'm talking about regular season, over 32.5. Zach, how do you feel about the Wizards?
I was shocked to see 32.5. I thought that was extremely low. I think, like you said, they could do a lot better than that. Westbrook coming in. I mean, Beal needed a change. He needed to play alongside a different star because him and John Wall, that had already reached its ceiling. That marriage was not going to go any further. Bringing in Russ, I think, is going to give Beal even more chances to do what he does best. They brought back Bertans, added in Denny, the guy from Israel. Hachimura is a year older. I think this is going to be a pretty decent team in the East. Also have to make sure you remember it's in the East. So that's good for a handful of wins right there. And when you have 2 superstars on your team, you're going to win a handful of those games just by their sheer willpower. So I think one of the more certain ones, I would say over.
Rich.
Same for me. Over for sure. I've already seen, videos and chatter about the impact Russ is having just in practice and changing the whole feel of Wizards practices. So I'm betting on that as well. To all the points y'all made with his pairing with Bill, Denny, Rui, etc. Troy Brown, Bertans, Thomas Bryant, who was another intriguing young front court player. Definitely going with the over. I'm excited. I hope, to see some Wizards games this year, to check them out.
That's a good League Pass team, I think.
Yeah, that's a good League Pass team for sure to check out. So, yeah, definitely going with the over. I think Russ is going to do some great things out there, honestly.
Agree. Going to number 10, the Orlando Magic sitting at 31.5 wins total. Orlando is at the bottom. They have the easiest first half schedule there, 30th, 20 games at home, 17 on the road, face 10 opponents back-to-back and have 6 of their own. So they have the easiest schedule. The Orlando Magic, though, are kind of like the same team. They're hurt. Jonathan Isaac's always hurt. They got Cole Anthony, who won him a game the other night. I definitely really like his game. I think he's going to be challenging for that starting point guard spot. We'll see him as a spark plug, kind of Kobe White-esque guy off the bench this season for the Magic. 31.5, though, that's a really tough. They were in the playoffs last year. I think they were right around there. They are hurt. I'm going to go under. I just don't know if they get better. I don't know if they have the synergy or the culture there where suddenly everyone gets a year better. They string together some more wins, notwithstanding the fact they have an easy schedule. And I could see them looking to maybe make some trades. Aaron Gordon maybe becomes available and then try to tank to get one of these guys in this draft this season if they start out with some losses. But I'm picking over 31.5. Rich, how do you feel?
I'm going to go under with the Magic. Another team that just does nothing for me. Definitely enjoy Cole Anthony for sure. I think he's going to challenge Fultz for that starting point guard spot like you mentioned. But, yeah, I mean, they lost, Isaac to injury again. DJ Augustine, who was a veteran, kind of steadying presence at the one for them. And also Mo Bamba's another player they drafted high who's just always hurt. I don't even think I've ever seen him play live, to be real, since he's been drafted. So, yeah, just another one of those middling team. Evan Fournier is going to be able to jack, 13, 14, 15 shots a game still. And they just kind of come and go. So, yeah, definitely won't be, I feel, repeating in the playoffs again this year for that coveted, first round sweep or where they win one game and beat the Raptors, beat the Bucks. But, yeah, just under.
Zach.
I think we've kind of reached that demarcation line where you have a lot of teams. There's a lot, maybe outside of Indiana for you, Sam, but a lot of teams have some pretty exciting things that you can tune in for on a nightly basis to just check in on, see how they're doing, get eyes on a certain player. I think it really falls off a cliff here. Like Magic, not too much exciting. Surprise! Aaron Gordon feels like he's 35, but he's only 25 or something like that. But yeah, Cole Anthony's a guy worth tuning in for. But yeah, nothing to get really excited about. Crazy they snuck into the playoffs last year, but with the Hawks and the Wizards getting a little better, I think they're probably going to lose some of those games they won last year. So under.
Agree. All right, moving over to the Windy City, number 11, Chicago Bulls, 30.5 total for Chicago. Chicago has the third toughest schedule. They are at 18 home games, 19 away, really hard schedule, 8 back-to-backs to their opponent's 6. Really tough first half of the schedule for a team that really has nothing going on necessarily. I think they're really in flux too. Who's their best player? Is it Zach LaVine? Is it Kobe White? Is it that guy from Arizona who I always forget, the blonde guy? Their power forward, brain fart. Yeah, Lauri Markkanen, who had a really bad second year. Question is, can he bounce back? They got Donovan there now, so you think maybe he can instill some culture. But dude, I just really do not feel excited about anything they got going on there, and I feel like they're tank city for one of these guys in this draft. So I'm picking under 30.5 for the Chicago Bulls. Rich, how do you feel about Windy City?
I'm going to go with the over. Not a huge Bulls fan, but that combination of LaVine and Kobe White is going to win a game. A lot of people felt the selection of Patrick Williams was a reach, but he's really impressed me in the preseason. Really solid basketball player. If Lauri can find something, if Wendell Carter can find something, I feel like the Bulls could get over. They hated Jim Boylan, so hopefully Billy Donovan is able to kind of replenish that culture and build something back up. But, yeah, I'm going to go with the over. I really enjoy watching Zach LaVine play. I've never seen him play, winning basketball on a winning team, but just watching him and Kobe White just jack shit up has been enjoyable to watch. But I'm going to go with the over because I think there are some improvements to be made. I think some adjustments will be made in the United Center. And I think they might surprise some people out of the gate. Just a young team, gonna run, gonna get out there. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the over.
Zach,
I've got the Bulls. Yep, I've got the over as well. Unlike Orlando, who has no coherent leaders, I feel like on the court, or no coherent strategy or household names. This Bulls team's pretty fun, I think. Can go off for 40. I think that is a big thing, is that if you got someone who can go off for 40, that's going to win you a fair amount of games. And they have several of them with Kobe White and Zach LaVine. I mean, those guys can torch you for a night. I mean, Memphis would have killed to have someone like that for, decades before. It was forever until guys like Mike Conley got their 40-point games, but these guys have that potential, really early in their career. So they're both really young, a year older. Adam Patrick, Patty Williams. I don't know if anyone calls him that, but I will. But yeah, saw a couple of those games. I also, Rich, thought he was a really fun player. The way I would describe the way he moves is so smooth. It just looks like he's been on that court before. Doesn't look overmatched. Of course,
he's smooth, man, delicate. He works in the flower shop, so he's No, he's all smooth.
Nimble. He's very
Nimble,
nimble.
very nimble. Light hands.
So I think that 30.5 that they'll be able in this bottom tier in the East. I think they kind of stick out to me compared to some of the teams that will probably move through quicker here coming up.
And speaking of teams we'll move through quicker here coming up, at number 12, the Charlotte Hornets, also known as Mellow Town, at 25.5. The Charlotte Hornets possess the 10th hardest schedule. They have 20 home games, 18 away, 9 back-to-backs. Kind of not what you want from a young team trying to find itself, so to speak. They overachieved last year, though, I would say, and won more games, I think, than a lot of people expected. They have a lot of kind of unheralded guards. Terry Rozier, they have on a near max deal there. They have Devontae Graham, who, of course, was in line for most improved player last year, like upped his points from like 2 a game to like 18 a game, which is insane. So he had a fantastic sophomore season. So acquired Gordon Hayward, too, who already hurt his finger, but it's nothing serious, I don't think. But it is a bummer that he's already hurt. I got over on the Hornets. I'm like a little bit higher on them than a lot of people for some reason. I have nothing to base this on. I just kind of want them to be a little bit better because they actually like took a swing on a guy and like are trying to be good. And like, I respect that from a small market as opposed to just all these guys that are from Boston, like at the Ringer, that don't understand that you can't just be bad forever. And like guys will still be on wait lists for season tickets. And they're just like, just tank, dude. Just tank. Just tank indefinitely.
You'll just magically get better because you'll just sign all the free agents one year and it'll be cool.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're just like totally out of touch. So Charlotte, I totally get, is like probably the most similar to the Grizzlies in terms of just how much people care about them. And they're even in a tougher spot because they just never had a guy as exciting as Ja or Jaren for that matter. So that's a real tough beat for them. So I'm just almost like mentally wishing them over. So Zach, how do you feel about the Michael Jordan's Charlotte Hornets?
Yeah, I have them going on the under. I think LaMelo is going to bring some excitement to him. Obviously, he's already, his passing is pretty impressive. Didn't watch a ton of him, highlights and stuff leading up to the draft or anything. But so far in preseason, he seems to be everything that he's been billed for. Hayward's probably not going to play enough games, I think, to make a big enough impact. Just base that off, he's like very fragile at this point. So I think that they'll still be towards the bottom. And if there's another year, if you can suffer through one more year of sucking, this is probably the year for it. So there's not, I think that they'll just not be good this year.
Rich.
Going with the under as well. We're probably going to think they're winning. I feel just because Melo is probably going to be trending every game. He's going to be on like all the sports pages and Instagram feeds or what have you from his passes. And, he's just a gifted, talented player, but I'm just not buying that roster. Not buying Gordon Hayward, to Zach's point, playing enough games. They've missed on a lot of picks. They've missed on a lot of lottery picks. And that roster is just, Devontae Graham overachieved last year a little bit, kind of had a coming out party, but players like Terry Rozier, P.J. Washington, who had a solid rookie season. I'm just Malik Monk, like all these. I don't know where the leadership comes from on that team, on that roster. I would love to be on a fly on the wall if Gordon Hayward and LaMelo have to sit next to each other on the team plane for like a 6-hour flight. I would just love to know what they would talk about and what they would engage in conversation about outside of basketball. But yeah, not buying it. Shout out to Melo, gifted ass passer, but definitely going to under with the Charlotte Hornets. Great jerseys, great colors.
Good colors, yeah. 13, Detroit Pistons, 23.5. They have the second hardest schedule, 17 home games, 20 away. Really tough for the Pistons. Killian Hayes is their pick. They're going to probably give him the ball a bunch. Blake Griffin said he's going to basically serve as a mentor role, see if that happens, or whether he just demands a trade like right before the trade deadline. I don't really know. Josh Jackson signed there. He's played pretty well in the preseason. Just a pretty uninspiring roster, obviously, with no real culture there by any means. I think they're just going to kind of like roll with Killian, let him develop and see what happens. I have the Pistons under 23.5. I think they're going to be very, very bad. I think they're going to have a really bad first half of the season. Blake's going to get hurt, quote unquote, and then stop playing. And then we're going to end up seeing them try to lose as many as possible. And then we could end up with like a sub 20 win team by the end of the year for the Pistons. Hoping their guys develop too. That's kind of the whole point. They just don't have anything that takes my breath away, as Zach would say. Zach, how do you feel about the Pistons?
Yeah, going under on them as well. Just a hodgepodge of guys. Jeremy Grant going there to get a more what does he want? More impact on the offensive end or something.
Shots.
So go to a terrible team. Yeah, Killian Hayes will be fun to watch. A lot of people think highly of Sadiq Bey. Not much to talk about here. Under.
Yeah, under for me as well. Killian Hayes, like I mentioned, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey. Saw some of their lottery pick from last year. Might mispronounce Saku. I'm not sure how to properly pronounce that, but he impressed me a little bit. So interested to see him as kind of a high energy slasher, if you will. But yeah, just a very uninspiring roster. I hate that D Rose has to go out like this, but you know, yeah, Pistons basketball. So they're not doing that.
Real tough. Moving on to the 14 and 15, both the 22.5 New York Knicks and Cleveland Cavaliers, the bottom feeders of the East. If there's ever a team that's tanking, it's the New York Knicks, signing all the Kentucky guys. They're just like, yeah, we'll field a team, 1-year deals, not do anything stupid. We're not signing every power forward in the league. We're just going to run some guys out there and play basketball. We're going to have no fans, so we're fine there. But we're going to have a season ticket waiting list for the rest of our existence until apocalypse. So we ain't got nothing to worry about, despite the fact we've been bad forever. Really good draft. 22.5, man. Who's even on that team? RJ,
Julius
Kevin
Randle,
not
DSJ,
Emmanuel Quickly,
Obi,
Elfrid Payton.
Yeah, under. No way. 22.5 wins under. They're going to be chasing the Pistons to try to lose. The Cavs, they got their dual guards, Darius Garland, Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton is a psychopath. I stand firmly on that hill. When I say a psychopath, I mean like legitimately. I think there's something going on with him, like beyond just like he plays really hard. Like I've seen him do some weird stuff on the court. And hey, man, I'm all about keeping my brain chemically balanced. So if you want to talk, shout out Colin Sexton. But I don't know what that translates to, whether they're going to be good. Kevin Love's still there, I guess, rotting away in Cleveland. Although he might really like Cleveland. He seems like the kind of guy that'd be like high on Cleveland. Hell, I really like Cleveland, and I'm a bearded white guy. So like, let's go. Cleveland was fun. Man, 22.5 for the Cavs. I don't know how I feel about this. Do I need to pick over? What's my total? I feel like I need to pick over on a team now because I feel like I'm going to pick over on the Cavs. All right, what do you feel about the Knicks and the Cavs? Quick.
Under for me. I think the Knicks they might be exciting to watch a little bit on the offensive end with Obi and Emmanuel Quickly, and Julius Randle's always going to shoot, but they're going to lose a lot of games. Cleveland never was sold on the Darius Garland Colin Sexton pairing as the backcourt of the future. Still haven't seen the old boy from Belmont play, who they drafted also. Was it Windler, something like that?
I don't know.
Interested to see what he does. Cedi Osman, whatever.
When did Dante X? I didn't honestly
know
Dante
X was down there in the offseason. I think it was a trade, honestly. Was it a trade? Yeah.
Damn, I'm glad we didn't get him for the Jazz.
He's not moving the needle for them either. So, yeah, under.
Zach, how do you feel about the teams that make you feel the least?
2 unders.
Okay.
Let's wrap it up on the East.
See you later, East. Flying out to the West, a.k.a. Memphis, which is not very West at all. But no, we're not starting in Memphis. I just think it's funny that Memphis is in the Western Conference. Western Conference, over, under. Backdoor Cut. Check us out on Dash Radio. I don't know why I'm doing this like cool segue. Let's start at number 1, Los Angeles Lakers, 46.5, which is the second highest win total, second to the Bucks in the NBA. The Lakers, of course, have LeBron James and Anthony Davis locked on the contract. They have, I just had a couple brain farts. Rich, just take me through the Lakers roster and take me through your opinion of the over-under.
Yeah, definitely over for sure. this roster is very good. Honestly, although it pains me to see Marc Gasol running up and down the court. I mean, he's on that last leg, but that passing and that IQ was still there, and that's all they really need him to do.
Is Gasol fucking washed? I haven't watched him yet.
It looks like it hurts to run. So yeah,
my guy. Shouts to my guy.
He's gonna be on national TV a lot, so get ready for that.
Tough.
But yeah, man. I mean, with Harrell and Schroeder and KCP, who's hitting knockdown shots now, et cetera. You got Bron, you got AD going 6 for 6 from 3-point land now. Like he's just, I mean, I think this is the year that torch a little bit. It's kind of passed as Bron like kind of winds down a little bit, and this becomes AD's team. And he's just generational talent. Taylor Horton-Tucker is another player who I think is going to have a greater impact this year. He's been balling in preseason. Granted, this is not the regular season, but he is a Swiss Army knife. Just a hell of a prospect. And then you got Kuz, who just got an extension today.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Got locked up. When I first saw it, it took me off guard. It caught me off guard a little bit. But I knew, with them not wanting this to hang over, the season, I feel like it's okay. Honestly, it's a win for him. I think Woj pointed out this clause where he's the first non-max extension to have an opt-out after 3 years. So literally he's going to be 28. He's going to be in his prime. So literally the time is now. If he's going to cash in and if he feels like he is this player that people have thought he is for the past 3 years, the Lakers have invested in you. This is the time to show it. They're not asking you to be a number 3 anymore. They're not asking you to do anything. Hoop, man. Show that, what you were doing in 2017 when we were trash can translate to winning basketball. How are you going to, do more things on the court than just jack up shots? So 3 years, $40 million. It's okay. I don't know where we have a lot of fucking money, but yeah, they were able to lock Kuz up. And yeah, I mean, we're going to see, what we do. I'm definitely going with the over for sure. I'm going with the back-to-back, the repeat. So, you know what I'm saying? West Side Lakerland.
Yeah, Lakers sit at the 28th easiest schedule in the first half of the season too. Something worth noting. Do not play not a lot of back-to-backs, only 5, which of course would favor LeBron. Maybe won't sit out as much. He's obviously going to manage his minutes a lot as he normally does throughout the regular season. 36 years old this season, fucking insane. But this is what he does. He's magic on the court. I pick over too. I think they generally win more games than they were predicted they did last year. I think they just want to go ahead and shore up that 1 or 2 seed to make sure that they, don't have to play. Theoretically, I know that the Clippers are underachieving, but they'd still rather play them in the Western Conference Finals if they have to play them at all. I think they'd like to defer that matchup till at least then, like they did last year, and then they lucked out, right? They got beat. So I think that's their vested interest is to win games, and the team's definitely better. I can objectively say this team is better this year in terms of the supporting cast. So I just can't imagine them being under. Zach, how do you feel about the Lakers?
So I pick under solely because I think that LeBron's going to sit as many or more games than he has in his career. They're still my favorite to win the title, but I think through the course of the regular season, they might take a few lumps with some of these other guys and kind of getting their roster together. So I think a little bit under, but like I said, as my caveat, I still think that they're probably the best team in the NBA.
Clippers at number 2, Bridges' favorite team. 45.5 over under is the total. They sit at 19th, so not a harder schedule than the Lakers, about 10 spots harder, but not super hard as it were. And they are basically the same team. They lost Harrell. They signed Ibaka. Paul George locked up, so maybe the contract shit's not hanging over for the whole season. Maybe they got Kawhi a hotel room in LA for the night before team flights, so that way he isn't doing whatever, however he's getting from San Diego, which is a 2.5-hour drive to LA.
Not an easy drive.
It's like us hopping up to Nashville to catch a flight.
No,
preposterous. A lot of people talked about how maybe he had a helicopter, like the Kobe style, which makes more sense. If he had a helicopter, that's 20 minutes or whatever, but you still got to drive to the helicopter pad, and then that's a whole process too. Point being, that's insane. Yeah. 45.5, game below the Lakers in terms of estimations. Ty Lue is the coach there, who was a Doc's assistant, so it's weird that everyone's it's going to be way better. That doesn't make any sense. He was there last year. Now, and Doc's voice is loud. It is raspy, so it does kind of like control what is the situation for sure. But I mean, Ty Lue's a player's coach, so is Doc. Like that's like Ty Lue is honestly cut from the Doc Kloss school of coaching, which he's not like Stan Van Gundy. He's not out there bitching at him for not making the right cuts. He's just saying play your game, hyping him up, that shit. So I don't know how they're better this year. I like Ibaka more than Harrell, though. I think he's a really good fit for that roster. I think they are going to be very angry. I think Paul George is going to have a comeback Oklahoma City season after that. Really can't get any worse than that bubble play and the playoffs. I think he's going to calm down that he's got that contract, and we'll see. So I'm going to pick the over as well. I think they're not trying to fuck around this year. This is the year where like they can't just rest a ton. They can't just like coast their way to the finals. They need to develop some chemistry, and the chemistry is developed during the season, winning games. So we'll see how that's done. Zach, how do you feel about the Clippers?
I think there's still some lingering issues from last season, and I think they might even take a step back, even though PG has, signed his extension and everything. I still think there's a lot of underlying issues with that roster and on that team that could cause them to struggle and lose some games. So I'm honestly expecting them to take a few steps back this season. So I have the under for the Clippers. What about you, Rich?
I'm gonna go with the under as well, man.
Of course, if they were like 20, you'd be like, man, it's the
under. So, like similar to you, I don't think it's all been resolved. Like I think we talked about earlier, the Grizzlies genuinely liking each other. If you look at the Lakers, they genuinely like each other. I don't think the Clippers like each other, man. Like they're not a close-in team. If you got homie commuting from San Diego, which is nuts. They just gave Paul George like $600 million. So they're putting a lot of stock in Luke Kennard, who's been hurt like his entire NBA career. I do like the Ibaka fit. They re-signed Reggie Jackson basically because him and Paul George are boys. And like Doc said, like we said, Ty Lue was there last year. Like what are you expecting to really change? Don't trust it, not buying it. Super talented, definitely going to play with a chip on their shoulders this year, but I just don't really see a team. I see a collective of pieces that were forced to kind of just come together, if you will, once Kawhi made the decision that he wanted to be a Clipper and come to LA. And it would just be funny as hell if they underachieved this year and Kawhi's out of there. That shit would be, that would be gold. So
I think it says a lot that, guys like Trez trying to get out of there.
Yeah.
I know
Lou was like, free me. I know Lou wants out.
Yeah.
His boy is going, Lou wants out.
All right, moving on to the third team in the West, the Denver Nuggets at 44.5 wins total. The Denver Nuggets sit at the 11th most difficult schedule in the first half, 17 home games, 20 away. So more away games at home, tough schedule for the Denver Nuggets. Expect everyone back. Same team that made the Western Conference Finals last year with the exception of Jeremy Grant, who was a huge component, of course, went to the Pistons to, I don't know, get more shots as we discussed earlier. You've got Joker still there. You've got Jamal Murray still there. You got Jamal Murray's ball throw still there. Jamal Murray is a guy that he was an 18-point a game guy and had this preposterous playoffs, and you wonder if he can put it together in the regular season. And if at some point that's going to happen, it's probably after that sort of blowout playoff performance. So I could see it being this season. I don't know if that translates to wins. Is Michael Porter going to be better? I don't know. The Nuggets always have a big question mark about. But then they always win. They're always the third seed. They really
regular season.
They just
team.
are. Yeah, and I don't watch them ever. And they just stack wins, and then I look up into the third seed, and I never think they're going to be good in the playoffs. And then this year they finally were. So 44.5. That's one game below the Clippers. It's a lot of wins, man. I'm just gonna pick under. I think they're still high in the seeding. I think they're still a top 4 seed, but I don't think they win that many games. It's a lot of games to win. So I'm picking under for the Nuggets for just no reason other than a little bit of math. But Rich, how do you feel about the Nuggets?
I'm going to go with the under as well. They literally lost their two most switchable perimeter defenders in Jeremy Grant and Torrey Craig this offseason. You've already got rumblings from Will Barton, who's coming back, and they're trying to work him into the offense again. He said, I'm a starter. They said, well, if you come up, he said, I'm not coming off the bench. So that's a whole other thing that they're gonna have to sort through or deal with. They locked up Monty Morris on a 3-year deal. I think their backup point guard. I'm assuming that Bowl is going to get into the rotation. He's going viral for some plays already in preseason. I'm not sure if he has the trust yet for those regular season minutes, but yeah, I mean with Joker and Jamal Murray, you always have a chance. But like you stated, like 44 is a lot. Just one game behind the Clippers, like that's a lot of wins for this roster, and yeah, we'll see what MPJ does. The bubble, the seeding games were kind of his little coming out party, but then it kind of regressed a bit in the playoffs once the game started to really, really matter. So yeah, if he takes that next steps, who knows what can happen. But yeah, they losing those two wing defenders, losing Plumlee, who isn't an exciting player, but who did a lot of the rebounding and the paint work for them, is going to hurt as well. So yeah, I'm going with the under. I don't think they're going to be as successful as they were last year.
Hey, all right, guys. I like the Nuggets in the regular season. Not gonna lie, I've got them on the over for this. So bringing in R.J. Hampton, pretty exciting draft pick. Also added Zeke Naji, really good player out of Arizona. I thought he was kind of underrated. Does a lot of that dirty work. Can get real athletic guy. Try to step, or he can kind of do some of those things off the bench. I think like Montrezl Harrell, get you some buckets and some rebounds. Really just create some kind of chaos. They'll figure out how to get our boy Will back in the rotation, get him happy. MPJ, I think he's only improving, adds another layer to their roster. And I mean, just having Murray and Jokic, we saw how awesome they were in the playoffs. I think if you're talking regular season, Nuggets is a team to be pretty high on. So I've got over for them.
All right, moving to number 4, the Dallas Mavericks at 42.5. Dallas has the 6th hardest schedule in the first half of the season, 19 home games, 18 away, 6 back-to-backs, tough opponents 4. I think you're kind of banking on Luka making the MVP jump. He is the MVP favorite for those calculating or keeping track of such things this year, which is insane. Year 3, already an MVP favorite, but he carried a Dallas team to a high 30s win total last year with a very hurt Porzingis. They did lose Seth Curry, who I thought was crucial for them. You maybe hope that KP can get back and play more consistently, but a lot of people are banking on this being the Luka bump. And I don't know if he alone can account for that many more wins, but he's really good. It's clearly his team now. It already was last year, but if it wasn't last year, it is now. And I think we're going to see KP either put up and play some games or get traded. Probably. So I think he maybe has a vested interest to actually play. I don't remember their additions or who they drafted. They drafted Tyrell Terry in the 2nd round, who everyone really liked and everyone thought was a darling. But I'm wondering who rounds out their starting roster. But I'm picking over for the Mavs. I'm a big Luka fan, and I think this is the year where he just crushes through the regular season, and they just win some games. Rich, how do you feel about the Mavs?
Yeah. I mean, huge Luka fan as well. They've kind of made this transition now from the hunters to the hunted. Luka's the MVP favorite. Dallas has made some moves. I really like the Josh Richardson addition to their backcourt to kind of be that switchable defender who can hit open shots and kind of guard people that Tim Hardaway Jr. was guarding last year. So that's going to be a whole different dynamic for them. But I think the real key is Porzingis and his health. Is he going to be on the court to be that 2 for Luka, to give him some help, to provide consistent double-doubles for him, whether it's from the driving kicks or doing some post work. So I'm definitely going to go with the over just because, Luka's just insane. But definitely I'm interested to see how they kind of operate this year with the spotlight on them. They got the marquee Christmas game this year against the Lakers in that prime slot. So they're setting it up for, Luka to transition into that next, stratosphere, that next face of the league for this, for the coming years. So I'm interested to see, and this is a guy who's been a professional since he was fucking 10. So I know he's built for it. He can handle that pressure, but his teammates are going to have to step up as well. And that starts with Porzingis himself.
Yeah, I have similar to you guys. I have the over for the Mavs, 42. Just kind of looking and seeing where some of these other teams are placed. I think that there's someone who could, outshine that Vegas number by, I think it's in the right ballpark, but I think that they'll just squeak over it by the slimmest of hairs.
Squeak over by the slimmest of hairs. You heard it here. That's a Barn Burner Bro special.
Wow.
Yeah, not bad, huh? Number 5, Utah Jazz, 42.5, same win total as the Mavs. Rudy Gobert just re-signed, dude. The biggest contract for a big ever in an era where you should totally give a lot of money to big men. Donovan Mitchell re-signed for the Max that got their guys back. Mike Conley's there for the last year of his deal. He opted in, of course, to his 32. And they're big fat under, man. Like the Mavs or the Jazz, I feel like are running contrarily to the Mavs. Like the Jazz are kind of on a downward trajectory, I feel like. And they always get in the playoffs, and like they're always right there at 5 or 6 is where they're destined to be. But I just definitely see more Gobert and more Spida contention. They really don't like each other, and they play well on the court and they make it work because they're mature guys. Well, I guess Rudy wasn't when he like rubbed the microphone mid-pandemic, but that was, whatever. And I just think at some point they're going to have a very mediocre season, like the Grizzlies did that one season where he's got hurt a ton.
Yeah,
and
I feel like it's a straw, like it's a glass house or a house of cards. One wrong thing could happen and everything could just implode for him.
And then Quinn Snyder might get fired because they're like he's kept them really good, but he's never put them like beyond like a first or second round exit. So I could see like them being like, well, shit, man, like we got our guys signed, so maybe he's the problem, and like then he gets fired like midway through the season if they come out of the gate slow. They've got the 5th hardest schedule in the first half of the season, so that's something to think about too. I could just see this being a season of disarray for the Jazz, and then in my heart of hearts, hoping that Donovan Mitchell asks out of the Utah next offseason and the Grizzlies trade for him. Because John Jaren have been recruiting him. I have a theory. So that's me just trying to will this into existence, basically. Is that the Jazz suck and we could somehow land Donovan Mitchell as our 2 guard for the future, and then we're dancing. How do you feel, Rich, about the Utah Jazz?
I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of that. Just, kind of this, 4-5 range, perennial playoff participant, but never really seen as a contender. That's a lot of money invested in Gobert. Donovan Mitchell got paid too. He's worth every penny. But at the end of the day, we talk about that continuity, that camaraderie that's important when you're going through the slogs of a long NBA season. And those guys don't really like each other, it seems. So, you got them and you got Ingles. They re-signed Derek Favors from New Orleans. I don't foresee Donovan Mitchell playing out his career in Utah. I would love to see him on Beale Street. That would be amazing. But yeah, I could definitely see, Quinn Snyder being looked at as a scapegoat. At some point, if, this trend continues and, them thinking, that this roster is a lot more talented than in all actuality it is. Just because they're perennially in this middle space of playoff participants. So I'm going to go with the under. Interested to see what Conley does, man, because he took a lot of heat last year. My boy Mike. I personally just don't think it's a good fit for him. But, it's fucking Utah. I'm going under.
That's so I don't know, I just feel so mellow and sad after talking about them. That's where our boy's at, Mike, but I also agree the under. It's just kind of a weird team. I look at the teams in the West and teams that are playoff teams. I don't think any of us here would say that Utah will not make the playoffs, but it's a team that you're really like, I mean, what is it there? That's probably how people thought of Memphis back in the day. We made, a dozen something playoffs in a row, but no one was scared of us. We were always there, but not going to kick it into that next gear where we're really contending. Even you made it to the Western Finals, you get swept. So still not really contending, don't have what it takes to get, to those final levels of the playoffs. And I think that even shows in the regular season for these guys. So I have the under as well for them.
Moving on to number 6, the Portland Trailblazers at 41.5. The Blazers, of course, added a lot. A lot of people are real hot on their offseason. People love Jerry Jones Jr. signing. People love they just added like a million wings. I feel like Melo re-signed. You hope that Dame and CJ are healthy. Nurkic is healthy. Last season was an abomination in terms of like what they should be. People love the Trailblazers, and I do too. I'm picking over. I think that they're better than the Jazz. So I on paper, all things healthy, I think the Trailblazers win more games than the Jazz, and I could see them being having home court advantage. So I'm picking over 41.5. The Portland Trailblazers possess a very easy schedule. The first half of the season, they're 26th, 19 home games, 18, only 7 back-to-backs. They play 10 teams on back-to-backs. So with the schedule, with everyone healthy, with the additions they made, Rocco is another guy I forgot to mention. Very switchable, a lot of wing guys. I think I really like their team too, like most of NBA Twitter. So I picked the over for the Trailblazers. Zach, how do you feel about Rip City?
Yeah, I think 41.5, absolutely over. I think that we're looking at probably a top 3 team in the West this year. On this roster, you have a lot of really good experience, obviously with Dame and CJ, but they got Nurkic coming back for his 7th year. Canner's back in the fold for his 10th year, an experienced guy there. Rocco the 8th. So a lot of good veterans who have, some of them have played on different teams, had some different experiences, but are back. And I really like how this roster is set up currently. Kind of curious to see how Nasir Little does out of North Carolina in his 2nd season. I don't remember him doing too much last year, but being a pretty big name coming out of college, out of that really awful UNC team, pretty much the only thing.
You're the only one in the world interested in what Nasir Little does, I think.
Yeah. Hey,
but shout out you. I love to hear it. You're keeping track on the McDonald's All-American class from like 2018 or whatever that was.
Anthony Simons
also
also.
Not expecting you to say Nasir Little. It's like
I don't know. It's
like I was like looking at the next person on the list. I was like thinking about my next analysis, and then I heard Nasir Little, and like my brain went like, "What the fuck?" I was like,
"That was some high school hype right there." You're going off his high school hype because he did not do anything in North Carolina.
So I am looking forward to watching the Trailblazers.
I'm looking forward to Nasir Little playing like 2 minutes and then me seeing him hit a shot and me texting you and be like, your boy. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I look forward to several messages this season then.
Yeah. That's your boy this year. Nasir Little. Like 5 years ago or so, it was Drummond. That's got various boys.
I need to get back on the Drummond train though. He hit a 3 now.
Hey man, all aboard. It's just a 1 car now. They don't offer food service. It's actually like kind of like a blue collar card. So you got to like work when you get on it. You don't buy a ticket. You actually just agree to you 3 months of wages in the mines. Yeah. So it's not necessarily the train you want to be on, but it's cheap to get on. So all right, so moving on to the Phoenix Suns at number 7, 38.5. Chris Paul edition. They had the Bubble Suns, of course, were a phenomenon across the world. I don't know if that's true, but I felt like it was. At least on my Twitter world, it was. And, you see Chris Paul come in. You see him maybe kind of work with Book a little bit better. Ayton makes a jump. They did have a really good bubble experience. It seemed to be them taking that next leap that we've anticipated them coming. That being said, like they just always, every year, everyone's like, this is the year, and it never happens. But I think Chris Paul, we saw with the Thunder last year, he's going to do that exact same thing with the Suns. 38.5, though. That's tough.
I feel like that's on the upper end of what I would expect from them.
Well, they won 34 last year in basically the same amount of games. So do you think Chris Paul adds more than 4 wins? I say yes. So I'm going to go over on that. I think they have a vested interest in winning too and getting the best. They want to win, right, and make the playoffs and have a good seed and get some excitement. So they have zero interest in tanking. So I think there's going to be a point where even if they lose out of the gate, they end up still like trying to win and maybe end up having a better second half of the season. Phoenix's schedule is 13th, so middle of the pack. Nothing to really write home about there. Rich, how do you feel about the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah. So I'm gonna go back to Portland because I don't think I shared on them. So I'm gonna be brief with that. Portland, I'm definitely going with the over. Love their moves, love their roster. Interested to see what Simons does in the backup point guard role. Terry Stotts is trusting him to kind of carry that out. I don't know. He's like 13, but I did go to a game last year where he shot the lights out at the Forum. So who knows what could happen. I want to see Melo. Interested to see Harry Giles as well, another one of their free agent signings. So definitely going with the over for the Blazers. And I am also going with the over for the Suns. Man, I watched them play a couple nights ago, and it's a solid roster. You know what I'm saying? I never count out Chris Paul. I think Ayton, he's going to hold Ayton a little accountable, really help build him as a professional. Book is going to get so many greater looks with CP setting him up. I love Mikal Bridges out of Villanova. He was hitting open three. He's a lockdown defender. Shout out to the hometown homie Cam Payne, who has kind of resurrected his NBA career out there in Phoenix, as well as Javon Carter, former first-round Grizzlies pick, who has kind of solidified that backup role, is going to, pick the brain of CP3 every day, I'm sure. Who else they got? They got some people. So
hold on, let me find the most random guy who was good in high school. And then
shit. Probably they got a
Tyshawn Alexander, you guys.
I don't know who that is. But I think he's a rookie. I think he's out of Creighton, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I don't know, man. Just watching him play, CP, Book is already the coolest dude alive, and CP just enhances that swagger. So I think the Suns, there gonna be some nights where they walk into the arena and they just, do their thing, honestly, because there's that true leader there now. And yeah, I'm excited to see Phoenix play basketball, man. It's been a long time since Phoenix has been kind of quote unquote good and relevant. And I think Monty Williams and James Jones have done a great job of constructing this roster. And I'm excited to see what they do. They took some chances, took some risks, signed some veteran pieces. So I'm gonna go with over.
Over on the Suns across the board. Don't forget Cameron Johnson too. Shot the lights out last year. They took a shot on him too.
Yeah.
Jay Crowder signed there too. So you got just a real tough team. I feel like with some combination of vets and young talents. That's kind of what you want when you're wanting to win more games. Kind of what I think the Hawks think they are. I feel like the Suns actually are, if that makes sense. Like the Suns sign guys that fit together. Like that are both veterans and fit together. Whereas this Hawks just sign guys that are vets and theoretically are good, but I don't know if the quilt necessarily sews together like they wanted to. At number 8, Golden State Warriors at 36.5. Clay hurt. Shout out Clay. Really tough to see that Achilles tear in practice for the season. You got Steph obviously is back and healthy. You got Wiggins and Oubre on the wing, which that's tough. Wiseman theoretically starting. Draymond's back, looks to be in good shape. Wearing Converse and team pictures. Pretty interesting decision. Saw that. I don't know if he's going to play in them. Would love to see that. I'm picking under, man. I feel like a lot of people are saying this, but they are just a couple of bad losses at the beginning of the season away from another tankathon. I just don't. They to me are playing either for the finals or not at all. And I just don't, especially in a season where there's no fans and that new stadium's not going to get used anyway. It's like what are they going to be playing for? I'm picking under for the Dubs, 36.5. They have the 16th schedule, it's the middle of the pack. Nothing to write home about there either. Rich, how do you feel about the Dubs?
Oh, going under as well. It's great to see Steph back on the basketball court, for sure. But I was still watching them the other night, and there were still some guys out there who I've never heard of in my life who are playing rotation minutes for the Warriors. Just don't think it's that talented of a roster. A wing with Andrew Wiggins and Kelly Oubre just leaves a lot to be desired, especially on the defensive end. I think, like you stated, they're one loss away or one minor injury away from another tank. And I hate it. I love watching Steph play, but this team just isn't good. I think, this return has been severely inflated, and it inflated their win totals. But, yeah, don't see the Warriors doing much of anything this year. Another lost year for them.
Zach, how you feel about the Dubs?
It's hard for me to write a team with Steph Curry out of the playoffs. So I think that this is about the range that they'll need to win in order to get into those playoffs. It's hard for me to say otherwise. I think over. I think they still have a good shot of getting in there with Steph, and the Draymond will be back. Actually, playing this season, actually caring about what's going on. He's only in year 30, not year 30 years old. So he's still got some game left in him, and we'll kind of see what he does with bringing up, mentoring some of these other guys. But all that to say, I'm going to think a little bit over.
All right, let's run. We got how many teams left? 7 teams left. Let's run through them pretty quickly because we're an hour and 45 in, and this is what the over-under extravaganza is. It's a marathon, not a sprint, fellas. But I don't have a lot to say about these. Maybe y'all do. All right, New Orleans Pelicans, number 9, 36.5. Same win total as Golden State Warriors, I might note. Stan Van Gundy's there now. You got lost Drew Holiday. Everyone's there. You think Zion's going to be healthy. He's looked good in the preseason. Doesn't look any different physique-wise, but he looks the exact same, really. But he's playing, right? And so that's what you want to see him play. If he plays, then that just changes their ceiling. But I just love to root against the Pelicans, so I'm going to pick under just for my own voting or vested interest. How do you feel about the Pellies, Zach?
So I think they're going to be one of those fringe teams in the play-in game. I have them slightly under 36.5, and I think a lot of that does have to do with that built-in bias. But I'm curious to see how Jackson Hayes plays. I think he's kind of a fun guy down in the post. Obviously, added Steven Adams.
He gets abused in the post, man.
Added Steven Adams.
The Zach team, the Sear Little, Jackson Hayes at center. I need to figure this out. This is going to be my
recruits, baby. 5-star recruits.
Dude, Jackson Hayes, I was telling Ivy this, my wife, I was telling her about the time that he didn't make the all-rookie team, and then he said, suck my dick, NBA, on Instagram Live to everyone. And I was like, dude, you suck. The fact you think you should have made the all-rookie team, first of all, means you're completely ignorant of reality. Second of all, to do that, I know you're 19, but all these guys are. And RJ Barrett's not getting on Instagram Live and saying "suck my dick, NBA." He looks like the Simpsons character, Sideshow Bob. I'm just out. I'm so out on Jackson Hayes. I couldn't be. He might be my least liked player in the NBA.
Wow, least liked player.
The only thing he's missing is playing for the Pacers. If he's playing for the Pacers, then I'm out.
I don't know. You might hate the Pelicans.
Every
more
time
than
this
the Pacers
kid gets in, I'm like, this fucking kid. His hair flops around. He's lanky, doesn't do shit but dunk, has no skill whatsoever. And everyone talks about Jackson Hayes, real high flyer, plays with a lot of passion and energy. Kid from Texas, comes from good stock, blah, 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 blah. And it's but they fail to talk about he has no skill. Sorry, I knew we were going to go quickly, but then I derailed all that with that. But here we go.
Zion's playing on this team, in case you didn't know that.
That's
and
true.
Having BI is freaking awesome, so I think that he's going to help them win a few extra games.
And weed's legal, man. BI's about that life. BI's first team all look high in every
I didn't
interview.
Factor that into my over-unders.
Yeah,
I know he misses LA though, man.
I mean, not that he gave a shit before anyway, but my guy is just.
If I'd have known this, I think I would have just tried to pick the person on every roster that triggered you guys the most. I think that would have been. We should do that for a show.
No, because if you did that, then you picked the guys that we actually liked. But by being you and truly Zach, you're picking guys like Nasir Little and I remember Sideshow Bob.
Jared Udhoff, former Memphis Hustle player.
Oh man, Udhoff. That's a deep cut. Hey man, just let Rich talk about it. Let Rich talk about the Pelicans.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I too, Jackson Hayes, no. Pelicans, let's see. I think Zach's point, I think they're gonna be within that play-in range. For sure. We know we're gonna see a lot of them. We're gonna have Pelicans overkill. Interesting roster. Shout out JJ Redick. Shout out Old Man in the 3 podcast. They've been getting some great guests. For sure. JJ Redick is a natural. His co-host though just kind of leans in like this. He kind of creeps me out a little bit. I'm sorry. But he does. He just
I was just doing the Tommy Alterline a little bit.
You have no idea.
His shoulders are up by his ears. And he has this mic right here. Yeah, I know exactly. That's really funny that you identified that too. Because that guy.
Glad I'm not alone in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think BI, Zion. I think they drafted Kira Lewis Jr. I don't know if Stan is planning to play Lonzo and Bledsoe together. I know he played with Drew, so interested to see what that looks like. But I mean, talented roster. They'll score a lot of points. Don't know who they're going to stop, but they'll be in that play-in range. And Adam Silver and company will do everything in their power to get them into the playoff.
All right, moving on to our next team, 10 Houston Rockets, 34.5. John Wall, Boogie Cousins, that's fun. The Houston Rockets sit at the 27th hardest or easiest schedule, rather, so they have a very easy schedule. We don't know how long Harden's going to be there. If he plays, he's a walk-in playoff berth. Question is, when he gets traded, it's going to be the beginning of the season, it's going to be the end of the season. Love the fact that he could just fly to Vegas in the middle of a day off and just party his ass off and then come back and drop 50. There's something to be said about that. To me, it's weirdly impressive. It's like Iverson level shit.
Very impressive.
That we don't have nowadays in the NBA. So I like it. I kind of like his existence because most of the guys are have kids and families and just drive out to Collierville and Memphis, and they're kind of boring. I love our guys. They're not boring. They're cool, but you know what I mean? They're not like Iverson. So yeah, I 34.5 depends on when. I'm assuming Harden's going to be on the roster till trade deadline though, because no one is able to put together a trade. And with that, I'm picking over. Harden means more than 34 wins. And Wall's look good. He's looked really good. He's looked healthy. And so I see them putting together wins like they usually do. So I'm picking over for the Houston Rockets. Zach, how do you feel?
And I think even when Harden gets traded, the goal is to get back, an all-star caliber player as well. So they should still have
Christian Wood looks good too.
A pretty good roster.
Yeah.
Even with Harden gone, replacing him with another guy, just similar to Wall and Westbrook switching. So it's an all-star swap, but both of those guys are probably in better scenarios and more helpful to their team. So I think 34 over.
I'm gonna go over as well. Same points with James Harden, I think, still being on the roster. Wallace look good. Boogie's look good. Christian Wood, nice, high ceiling signing. Still got the shooters such as Daniel House, Ben McLemore, Eric Gordon, etc. So the Rockets are still going to rock it, I feel, for as long as James Harden's on that roster. And with him being on that roster, they're always going to be a playoff team. So I'll go over.
Yep. Moving on to the 11 seed, my favorite, your favorite, the Memphis Grizzlies at 30.5, 11 seed, notable out of the play-in game. 30.5 wins. I've talked about this before. I feel like over. So I think we're around 34 for the season. Feel a little bit even more encouraged after the preseason play because I was thinking we might struggle a lot out of the gate without John Jaren, but guys are shooting really well. Guys look ready to play. Team looks good. I'm picking over. Rich, how do you feel about the 30.5 win total?
Oh, disrespectful. I'm going over for sure. Preseason has been very encouraging. Guys look ready, like you shared. Guys know their roles. The guys play as a team. So definitely see them going over. And just continuing to play with that chip on their shoulder and proving people wrong. And with at least hopes of getting to that play-in, tournament. But definitely going over more than 30 for sure.
So I had a number in my head before I even pulled up these over-unders of 30 games, 30 wins for the Grizzlies. So, which is ironically close to what Vegas has. They have them at 30.5, but that means I had to stick to my guns and go with the under. I think that obviously Ja, fantastic. I think Memphis will have some bumps. Ja will get some learning experiences when these other teams put their best wing defender and stick them on him. What's the team going to do in that scenario? How are we going to react? I think that's going to take us a little bit of getting used to something that Minnesota and Atlanta don't necessarily have that luxury of doing that some of these other teams in the West certainly do. So I think, I'm just sticking to my guns with that 30. Obviously, hope I'm very wrong with that, but that's where I see us landing.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong too. I'd rather win like 20 games than 30. You know what I mean? Like I'd rather like either tank or that'd be kind of a nightmare scenario. That's barely missing the play in, then also not having a good draft pick. But maybe our guys are getting better and winning, and tanking sucks for a roster morale for sure as well. So there's something to be said about that. All right, moving to 12 seed, the San Antonio Spurs at 29.5, which I feel like is very disrespectful. They got 2 All-Stars on their team still, LaMarcus and DeRozan. Pop's still there. Like they're just a machine. I know they underachieved last year, and who's to think they get better this year? But I just would pick over with the Spurs. Just feel like this is a safe bet if everyone's healthy. And I just believe in the Spurs, man. Have every year. Zach, how do you feel about them?
With the Spurs, I feel like there's just too many really good teams in the West at this point, and so I've got them on the under. I don't see a whole lot of necessary improvement from previous years. Their main guys are getting a little bit older. I mean, Rudy Gay and LaMarcus Aldridge are in their 15th seasons, and they're not LeBron types. They're not still playing at the highest level that they always have. So I could see them. They're one injury away from being in pretty big trouble again. So under for them.
Yeah. I'm going under. I know when we always say they have these all-stars in their roster. I'm always interested, how long does that title kind of last when you're not really a perennial all-star? You just kind of been an all-star. And I don't think, Aldridge or DeRozan have been all-star in years. I'm not really interested to see what the Spurs are doing. They have a influx of young guards in those 2 backcourt roles, whether it be DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Keldon Johnson, etc. Just all these young guards. But, yeah, definitely I don't think a playoff team. And while I think they will win some games and you never count out Pop, I'm going to go with the under. They're going to lose a lot of close ones.
All right, down on the Spurs here at the backdoor cut. Moving on to the 13th seed, actually, is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 28.5, listed at 14 here. Their win total must have gotten bumped. Fuck out of here. That's an under, man. That team has zero chemistry. Oh, man. They're just imploding already in the preseason. And not impressed with Anthony Edwards, D'Lo, and Cat. Cat just stands around the 3-point line, jacks threes. Yep. I literally couldn't be lower. That's a lock. Under Minnesota Timberwolves 28.5. Rich,
2 All-Stars though.
Yeah, but All-Stars are just
right.
Suck. I mean,
Under. They gave
I think the point. You're trying to turn around on me, man. Whatever.
Exactly.
Under. Yeah. I have nothing to say. They gave Malik Beasley $64 million. Under. Now.
That's a team where it's just kind of sad and disappointing that you do have multiple All-Stars, and what is your ceiling? Very, very low.
Suck.
That coach is going to get fired. He doesn't inspire anyone. I'm out. They waive Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, who's our best player in the preseason, better than D'Lo, and that's just a horrible organization.
You can hang up there in MSP area.
You love Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, Zach. He's the classic UConn 5-star Arizona guy.
All right.
This is your guy.
Well, let me pick my own guys. I got one coming up for you on the Kings. So,
ooh. All right. Well, over under on the Wolf Sack.
Oh, under for sure.
Yeah, they middle of the pack schedule. Yeah, that's tough. That's kind of weird. It's kind of aspirational there. Sacramento Kings 27.5. De'Aaron Fox is back. Cut his hair though, obviously. Bagley, you hope plays some more games. Buddy's jacking threes and making a shit ton of them. My guy can shoot. But again, I just have a really hard time with the Kings. I just hate their coaching staff. They should have kept Jaeger. They just are pretty uninspiring. And I don't think that – I think that that's exactly what even the Kings beat writers would say if you talk to any of those guys. Really all their tweets are we're the dumbest team ever. All these moves suck, and I'm so sad to be a Kings fan. And when you read that from the fans the whole time, you're just like, man, what just a dismal situation. You're in constant NBA purgatory, basically. So I'm picking under, and I think I will on the Kings for till they get that guy. They do, however, have Halliburton, who looks really good in the pick and roll, plays well above his years, and looks like an immediate contributor. So I am hype on him, very hype on Halliburton. But Zach, who's your guy? Was it Halliburton?
No, it wasn't. A lot of
he's
people
actually
like him.
good.
Yeah,
That's true. Yeah.
My guy out there is Jamis Ramsey from Texas Tech.
See, he hasn't played yet.
That's why I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, man. He's a good
I'm kind of
college,
interested in him.
good high school, good college player.
Yeah.
On this pod, I talked about how I thought he might be a guy that Memphis could add when they had their original second-round pick. So
we got D-Bane instead, baby.
I would prefer that, yes.
Yeah.
But that's just don't have a lot of guys out there in Sacramento. I'll have to pick up on Ramsey, my guy, but I'll take the under for the Kings.
Seventh hardest schedule too. They play actually 12 teams that have back-to-backs, which is pretty crazy. But our schedule, by the way, is exactly middle of the pack. We are 15. So we'll see how that goes one way or the other. Rich, how do you feel about the Kings?
Under for sure. I hate Luke Walton. Let's see. Yeah. I'm a big Rashawn Holmes fan, though. Love how hard he plays.
Yeah, I like him too.
Big Rashawn Holmes fan. But, yep. Other than that and Halliburton's potential, nah, under.
All right, our last team in the West, the final of this marathon, the over-under and the Barn Burner Podcast Network on Backdoor Cut Show. The Oklahoma City Thunder at 22.5. They have the hardest schedule in the first half. They are the number one. They play 18 home games, 19 away, 7 back-to-backs, opponent 5, but their strength of schedule is the most difficult by who they play, and they have arguably the least talented roster. They're banking picks. They have basically every single person's pick, even in the NFL, over the next 5 or 6 years. They got NHL picks. That Sam Presti's over there collecting picks and just with reckless abandon, with zero regard for anyone's life, for anyone's picking life, and does not care about this season. In fact, wants to lose.
Yep.
They are basically the 76ers of yesteryear. So under, that's a lock. 22.5. Zach, how you feel about the Oklahoma City Thunder? I'm sure they got quite a few of your boys on there.
Man, they do not have
no
Zach's boys on.
They didn't make a trade for Nasir Little.
Now, wait until they draft 15 guys next season. They'll have a ton of my boys at that point.
They'll draft literally the whole first round. They could, yeah, and that's they're going to draft Trevor Lawrence, sneak him out from the Jets, and have him. Shit, he could probably be their starting 2 guard right now. I'm sure he's pretty good in rec ball. Anyway,
yeah, he's 6'6", man.
Yeah,
I think probably hoop.
I feel like he's got a ratchet, as Chandler Parsons used to say.
Right.
What a fucking thief, Chandler Parsons.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they're not trying to win games, and I think the other teams that are at the bottom, like Pistons, Knicks, Cavs, they might actually be trying to win games, but Oklahoma City, they're not. It's going to be – they have some fun guys on the roster. Like SGA, fun guy. Love watching him play. Feel really bad for him having to play with this roster for –
Wait a minute. SGA, we kind of I think he's impeachable a little bit. We kind of had this little bit of timers, he's good. The Clippers made a mistake. He had a pretty good season with Chris Paul. But in the bubble, he sucked really bad. And in the playoffs, he sucked really bad. I know he's a young player.
He's 21, though.
He doesn't impress me that much.
I know, young player. I think he's good, but he's treated like this. Why is he treated with a higher level of respect than De'Aaron Fox, for example? I don't know.
Oh, I wouldn't say. I mean, not by me. I would take Fox over him.
Oh, okay. Well, just a lot of people really high on SGA, and for a little bit of a regular season when Chris Paul handled the ball most of the time.
No, I mean he made a big jump from his rookie to sophomore year, and I think that's probably the big reason why.
Rich, how you feel about the Thunder? Over or under?
Under. There'll probably be scrimmage in the G League Elite Select team or something. But yeah, not interested.
That guy Pogasevsky or whatever, that skinny ass European guy whose family looked like they were having a seance when he got drafted. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
They were all just sitting there in boring suits around a boring wooden kitchen table, and they all nodded at each other. It was
they looked like
the most
they
European thing of all time. Might as well have been smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee. That was and eating baguettes. That's next level European shit. How you feel about that, Zach? Okay.
We did it, guys.
All right, take us home, Zach. 2 hours of podcasting. It's a marathon, man. The over-unders. But hey, I think, once you have kind of an understanding of every 30 teams, you like talk about them, you have a kind of a mindset of what you expect from them. It kind of makes the whole season a little more fun when you think about what did I think they were going to do as you move through the season. Zach, take us home.
Yeah, we'll probably split this into two different shows between the East and the West. But thanks, everyone, for listening to the Backdoor Cut show. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, also on Dash Radio's Nothing But channel, 9 o'clock Central every Monday night. And thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week where we will talk real, live, regular season NBA hoops. Until next time, see you later.